what really hurt me is when I hit like a 50-50 record. You know, when it was like, all right, 2 wins, 2 losses, I was like, am I gonna be like a 50-50 fighter? Like, is this worth it for me to just be kind of like an average fighter? And then all these like, you know, negative thoughts and talk started like filtering in through my head. It was like, you suck, you're not good enough. It's just like all those things that the people say, you know, that haven't done it themselves. I started believing it, you know, so it was like, maybe I do suck. Maybe I'm not ready for this. Maybe I shouldn't be doing this. All these things. I think what pulled me out of it was just in this moment, how do you want to be perceived? Like in this moment of weakness, do you want to give up? Do you want to surrender? Do you want to submit to what life has given you? Or do you want to push back?
Hi, and welcome to another episode of Permission to Prosper. I'm your host, Yvette Garcia, and I have a very special guest for you guys. I'm super excited for you guys to meet her. I've been following her journey on social media for quite a long time. You might know her from seeing her in the ring. She is the one and only Michelle Watterson. My girl in the house.
Well, thank you for the intro.
I'm so glad you could be here today. I am super excited. I have been just dying to connect with you because I see you on social media and you're just so much more, I feel like, than the fighter that everyone else gets to see. And you are just have such a presence about you that I admire, that I'm looking forward to sharing this story with everyone here today. So tell me a little bit about yourself, about your childhood, your upbringing, where you're from.
So I come from a military family. My dad was in the Army, and my mom met my dad in Germany, actually. So they met there, came to the States, had me, and then moved back to Germany, had my little sister. And my mom had a son previously before meeting my dad. So it's the three of us kiddos growing up in Aurora, Colorado. And it was a great place to live. Where I grew up was really diverse, and I just remember my older brother being kind of like my hero, and whatever he did, I wanted to do. So when he got interested in martial arts, I wanted to be interested in martial arts because I wanted to look cool to him.
Yeah,
you know. So we watched, Ninja Turtles and Mortal Kombat and Power Rangers, and I did want to get into gymnastics when I was younger, but it was just not something that my parents could afford, like having 3 kids. So like my mom would used to take me to like the 1 week free trials, and then like take me around like all the different 1 week free trials.
I love it.
And then we just kind of like, we ran out of all the different gyms. So then I couldn't do that anymore. There was a martial arts school down the gym that taught out of the basement of a church. And it was something pretty inexpensive that all 3 of us children could do. So we got a flyer on the door, and my brother was like, I want to do this. And so we all went, and it took over our lives. It became our passion and something that we realized that we were really good at doing. And it just kind of became our family thing. We had monthly tournaments that we all prepared for, and we all went to the tournaments together. We competed, and then after that, we would be celebrating our wins. We'd go to Golden Corral, have some food. And it came into my life at a time when I needed a voice. I was kind of like a late bloomer, and and I am kind of submissive just in general, and I think martial arts gave me a voice. And when I realized the power that I had through martial arts, I decided that it was going to be a part of my life for the rest of my life. So that's kind of that in a nutshell. Really active in high school. I did every club that you could imagine. I did it, senior class president, National Honor Society, theater, choir, cheerleading, dancing. I did it all because it's just always in my personality. And it's actually something that my dad would like harp on me for, because he would say, like, Michelle, you're putting too much on your plate, and yeah, you can handle it, but eventually some things are going to fall off. Yeah. Like with the cheerleading and the dancing, it got to a point where he would tell me, you have to pick. It's either karate or cheerleading. And I'm not saying, you're not great at both of them, but if you want to, excel, you're going to have to pick one because the times are colliding. So I picked martial arts. And then I went to college because I thought that that's what you had to do after you graduate high school, is graduate, go to college, settle down, white picket fence.
Yeah.
And I just found myself really lost, and I just kind of going through the motions. I was doing great. I was going to school for theater and sports science. My GPA was fine, but my heart and my soul were just suffering. And I couldn't figure out why. I thrived in high school. I had a community, I had friends, and it just wasn't the same way in college.
And at this time when you were in college, were you still practicing martial arts? Was it like something on the side? Were you still fighting, or was that kind of on the back burner while you were doing school?
Yeah, it kind of did get put on the back burner. But because the college that I chose to go to, my dad said that he'd be able to help me financially with it. And so I decided to go. And as soon as I registered for school, my dad got laid off. So I wasn't prepared to pay those bills. So then I had started working. So I was working full time and going to school. So the martial arts had to take a back burner for sure.
So how did that like come full circle then, since you had to kind of stray away from it for such a long period of time and kind of go into, adulting and start working? How did that kind of come back into your life again?
Well, my grandma in Thailand got really sick, and my mom was saying that she was planning on going out there to visit her. And so I said, you know what, I think I need a break from school. I'll go with you. And then we'll just so I kind of like put school on pause. I took a semester off of school and decided to go to Thailand with my mom. And while I was in Thailand, Thailand is like the motherland of Muay Thai. And so, I've always been, a student of martial arts. It didn't matter what martial art. So I got my black belt American Freestyle Karate, and I trained in Wushu, I trained in Kempo. And then, so I was like, we're in Thailand, like motherland of Muay Thai. Let's do some freaking Muay Thai, So, we went to this kind of like hole in the wall gym, which are the best gyms. Like if you know anything about a gym, if you walk in and it smells like
sweat,
yeah, yeah, then you're in a good place because they're working.
Yeah.
So, yeah, man, it lighted a fire in me that had been like spat out for quite a bit. And man, they kicked my butt. They made fun of the way I punched. They made fun of the way I kicked because I come from a karate background, and it's very different from a karate roundhouse is very different from a Muay Thai roundhouse. So I want to say the whole first week of me being there, they let me practice one move. I'm sitting here watching these little 5-year-old kids like do 10-minute rounds and then in between rounds do push-ups, and I'm like, I want to do that. It was like they Mr. Miyagi'd me,
I love it.
So after that, I was like, this is what I want to do. Like, it pushes me. I'm scared. I don't know what I'm doing. And I want to learn, So when I came back home, I dropped out of college. And it kind of like, when it's meant to be, it's meant to be. So it kind of all just melded and happened the way it needed to, because the job that I had while I was going to college, I was a waitress at Hooters. And while I was a waitress there, they did like they would come through and offer you little side jobs, like doing a photo shoot here or being a ring girl here or there. I had no idea what MMA was, and they were like, you want to be a ring girl for a local MMA card? And this is when I had just come back from Thailand, and I was like, yeah, sure. So I'm this ring girl for this MMA card, and I'm watching these guys fight, and I'm like, holy moly, that looks like so much fun as a ring girl. And I'm like talking to a promoter, and I'm telling him like I have a martial arts background, and he kind of probably didn't believe me, or was like, okay, yeah, sure. And one of the fighters had overheard me and had come into my work the next day and was like, if you're serious about fighting, get your butt in the gym.
Right.
And then it was kind of like, it was game on from there, you know.
What was that conversation like with your mom and your siblings going from, I'm a college student and, you know, I'm working towards this. You took a trip to Thailand that just flipped a switch and you're coming back. Like, how do you explain, like, I'm not doing this anymore? And like, how was that for you? Do you feel like you had like full support from your family, or was it just something you had to just, in your heart, you felt you had to just go for?
I think my mom noticed a change in my spirit when I wasn't doing martial arts, you know? So even though it wasn't the path that most,
Right.
you know, most would take, traditional, especially like in the Asian culture, it's like, you know, you go college, you'll be doctor. You know, so but she saw like my passion get reignited, and so she supported it, you know. She really did. It was kind of like the external family that didn't understand as much.
Yeah.
But she totally supported it.
I love that. I love that. So, okay, so you take your trip back from Thailand. You decide, I'm doing this, which, by the way, it just blows my mind because, you know, someone working in Hooters and then being a ring girl. So you're the one that's standing in the front with the sign, beautiful, gorge, and like in your mind, you're like, no, I want to be the girl that's in there kicking butt. And I just think that's so amazing. So walk me through now your transition from being a ring girl into diving into UFC, because at the time you said that you're using it to work and to make money. So what are you doing now in between? Are you still working as you're trying to, you know, start this whole new career path?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of just was shooting from the hip and rolling with the punches, you know. So when I dropped out of school, I started working full time so that I could save up money and just figure out what I was going to do. So I was working from Monday. Actually, this was what my schedule was. Instead of working full time, I told myself that I would work doubles on the weekend. So basically a full time. So I worked Friday night and then double Saturday, double Sunday. So I was working 5-day shifts, which was enough to cover my bills for the month and save up. And then during the week is when I would train, and I would train, you know, as much as I could. So I would go to one place for boxing, and then go to another place for wrestling, and go to another place for jiu-jitsu, and just kind of just try to learn as much as I could. And at the beginning of your career, it's kind of, I really didn't have issues getting a fight because I was, you know, an attractive girl and they didn't mind putting me on the card. The hard part was like finding opponents, you know? And so when you're at the beginning stage of your fight career, you just have to stay ready. You have to be willing to take fights outside of your weight class for the experience. So, you know, I was probably walking around at like 108, dripping wet, you know, and fighting girls at 125, 127, driving to Nebraska and just like these places in the middle of nowhere just so that I could get the experience of fighting. Most of those fights were just kickboxing fights because that's all that was available. And then there was a MMA fight that I could take, and I was really excited because now we're using all of these different elements of martial arts. And
did any part of that scare you?
Yes.
Because now you're moving from you can only use certain things to now there's like no rules, right? So it's like,
it was scary, but I think at the time I was just excited. It's weird, you know, it's when you're doing something you love. It's not like, this is what I tell my daughter all the time too. Like when you're waiting in line to get on that roller coaster, how do you feel? You know, you got the butterflies, you're nervous, you're excited. It's the same way you feel when you're waiting in line to get called up for your gymnastics meet. But you equate that with being nervous and scared.
Right.
You know, they're both the same feelings, but it's like how you react to it that determine how you perform.
Right. You can choose to look at it as a nervous, or you can choose to look at it as excited, and that's how you kind of
that's how you move forward.
Through. Right.
That's how you follow through. You take those. I always tell her, like, you take those butterflies and you get them in order, and you make them a part of your army. You know.
Oh, I love that.
But yeah, like I was excited, and so I'm training, getting my butt whooped every day, coming to work at Hooters with black eyes and scraped up, you know, knees and stuff like People were looking at me like I'm crazy. And then 2 weeks before the fight, they say, hey, your girl fell through, which just happens all the time in fighting.
As in your opponent fell through? Okay.
Yes, my opponent. And they're like, the only girl we have available is a girl that's 2-0 professional. So basically, if you're an amateur, when you decide to go pro, your record's permanent. So your amateur career is kind of just like how you practice. When you turn pro, that's it. Like, it's your record, it's on there forever, and you hold on to it for the rest of your life. You can't go backwards. And so, I was looking at my trainer, and he's like, you've been training, you're ready. And so I was like, all right, let's take it.
There's something to say too, right? Like, when you're coach, you're looking at them to like, do I got this? And they're like, you got this. Yeah. I think from the beginning, it's something that I appreciate so much about your story is that you own, I feel like, whatever, life was throwing at you, and you just took ownership of like, I want to be a fighter, and whatever that entails, I'm here for it. Yeah. And I feel like so often, I mean, anyone, just us as humans, your natural instinct is to go for safety and go for security, and you zigged when everyone zagged. And that's such a cool thing to do because it's rare. And I think that's really what allows you to succeed and to thrive, is because you're saying everyone's going this way, I'm going to go this way. This is right for me. And that's just like giving me goosebumps here, because I'm like, that's so cool. And it's so rare to see. And I think what's awesome is that you continue to do that throughout your entire fighting career, and as a mother, and as, an entrepreneur now. So talk me through now, you're getting ready for your fight. How are you feeling? How are you prepping? What's going through your mind?
Yeah, man, I was just, like I said, I was more excited than anything. And I talk to people about that all the time. Now, being in the game for over 15 years and having experienced all that, I tell them, I wish I had the fearlessness and excitement that I did when I first started fighting. And it's kind of like, I wouldn't call it beginner's luck, but when they say, like, when you go to the casino and you've never played before, and you're just like hitting everything because you don't care. Like you said, you just, kind of like letting the wind take you wherever you want to take you. And then what happens in fighting is, what happens? You get knocked out. You get subbed. You lose a fight. People start talking crap. And now when you go into your next fight, you're a little bit more tentative. You're worried about if you what people are going to say, or this and that. So it's just like, it's kind of a snowball effect of just how the way the world works.
So how do you feel like your mindset is in dealing with it? How do you navigate that, right? Because if you're going through this first fight, well, first, I guess, talk me through what happened in this first fight, and what was, the trajectory, I guess, from after this first initial fight, because obviously something shifted, which is, I feel like you gave yourself permission to prosper, which is like what this entire show is about, when you decided after Thailand to go and be the fighter. But here it is now, sitting in front of your face. This is your opportunity. And you very well could have been like, maybe in 2 or 3 or whatever more weeks, and you just said, it's go time, right? And you accepted that. Tell me about this fight and how that shifted for you.
Yeah, you just kind of have to decide. I think that's a big thing for anybody is the minute you decide, you just don't look back. When you decide to walk inside that cage, they close the door behind you, and you have no other choice but to face what's in front of you. And so that's what it was. I was just excited to go out there, excited to perform, and I wanted to win. I was excited to win. I was excited to go out there and have the ability to afflict, my my tools,
your craft,
my craft on this opponent. That's what we both signed the dotted line for. And so it's just all very exciting for me. Obviously, I have a karate background, and so we went in there with the thought that I was going to beat her with my karate. But this girl was swinging from the fences. She was trying to take my head clean off. Like, you could hear the punches go, and so I was like, well, it's MMA,
Right.
So it wasn't in the game plan at all to take her down. But in that moment, we had to adapt. We had to overcome what was happening in the moment. And so I ended up taking her down and beating her by ground and pound. It went decision, and I just was, I had this huge adrenaline high, and I felt so full and accomplished, and I felt like in that moment, like, you know, all the years and decades of my martial arts, I was able to like embody and capture in that moment, you know, and it was a great feeling.
I mean, I can't imagine. How do you feel like coming off, you know, all your highs, you're winning, you're on a streak, and then you get stopped in your tracks and you hit your first loss? Mm-hmm. What is the mindset shift now that allows you to continue to push forward? Because I think in life in general, it's always hard to have a loss in life. But I think once you doing it in public, it's a whole other like level that you have to shift in your mind to be able to continue to pursue that. Because when you're doing it behind closed doors, it's a little bit easier for someone to say, okay, I'm going to try it this way, or I'm going to do this instead. Mm-hmm. But when you're doing it in the public eye, I feel like you really got to be strong-willed in order to push forward. So walk me through the things that you're doing at this time when you hit your first wall to push you forward, then to move forward.
I think my first loss was devastating. It really was. I just, in my mind, I didn't think that I could lose. Not, you know, I was just, you know, trekking forward. And as long as I, you know, did what I trained, I was winning. And then, you know, I got in this fight where I got in a position I didn't have the answers to. And so it was like, I literally felt like I was drowning. You know, but it's like that. That's like that in life. When you get into situations and you get frustrated with yourself, but there's no reason to get frustrated with yourself, because it's just an answer that you don't have at the moment. I didn't have the knowledge, you know? So she had mounted me, which is like when you like two legs over, and she was punching me in the face. And I was like, how do I get this girl off me? So, you know, totally rookie move, but I started punching her back, which is not what you do, because you have to get out of that bad position first before you start punching back. I don't think it devastated me as much the first time, because I mean, I grew up as an athlete. You understand what a win and a loss is, but what really hurt me is when I hit like a 50-50 record. You know, when it was like, all right, 2 wins, 2 losses, I was like, am I going to be like a 50-50 fighter? Like, is this worth it for me to just be kind of like an average fighter? And then all these like, you know, negative thoughts and talk started like filtering in through my head. It was like, you suck, you're not good enough. It's just like all those things that the people say, you know, that haven't done it themselves. And now that I'm at there and my physical record showed it, I started believing it, you know? So it was like, maybe I do suck. Maybe I'm not ready for this. Maybe I shouldn't be doing this, all these things. And I think what pulled me out of it was just the fact that, you know, in this moment, how do you want to be perceived? Like in this moment of weakness, do you want to give up? Do you want to surrender? Do you want to submit to what life has given you? Or do you want to push back? And because I have the spirit of a fighter, because that's what I feel like I am, not just in my career, but in my life, that I'm a fighter, that I'm going to push back. And at that moment is when I realized that that's what fighting was about. Fighting isn't about winning. It's about overcoming defeat.
Right.
You know, and not allowing those voices to come in. It's what I tell my daughter sometimes is like your mind is like a garden, and you have to constantly be taking care of your beautiful flowers, your positive thoughts, and all these things. And regardless of you taking care of those flowers, weeds are gonna pop up. So you have to be really vigilant in pulling those weeds out as you feed your beautiful flowers in your garden, and it's easier said than done. And people think like once you reach this high that it's just gonna stay there. No, like the high is a moment. It comes and it goes. You probably spend less time celebrating than you do
Right.
being in mourning from a loss, you know. And that's the sucky thing about it. It's like, and that's what I have to wrap my head around too, is like, yeah, like a win is a moment, but so is a loss.
Right.
But you let those losses haunt you, you know. You can let
Right.
those losses haunt you, you know, or you don't have to.
So in this time, are you like, do you have a support system, or who do you have like rallying behind you, or what is your way of like pushing through a loss? Do you have friends? Do you have family? Or what's helping you get then to your next step? Or is it just you feel like you're a kind of a standalone person that you just like self-soothe, put yourself back together?
Obviously, you have a group, you know, you have
Your tribe.
people, your tribe, people behind you that support you. And that's what the gym is. It's like you can go into the gym and not have to say anything, and nobody's going to harp you for anything because they know what it is. They know what it feels like to lose. So you just go into the gym and you get to work, and you know, your friends and your family are there for you. And that's just kind of what you do. You put your head back down and you grind it out. You get back to work. Yeah, that's just what you do. Is something that stuck to me after one of my fights is one of the coaches that was just in the back, seeing me passing through the lockers, and he could see on my face how devastated I was. And he's like, hey, he said, you know, the fans only remember your last fight, you know. So basically what he's saying is like, get back out there and win, because then they'll forget about this moment right now, you know, and so will you.
I love that. How important I feel like is it to have those people in your life and surround yourself with those people, because there's one thing to go into a gym and like you're saying, you don't have people, you know, shame you for whatever just happened. They're here to root you on and help you move forward to your next step. Why is it important, you feel like, to have those kinds of people that you can come into a room where you know you did just lose, but you just have everyone rallying behind you and you have that support system where they're just like, let's go.
I think it's really important. You know, you need to have a place where you can trust the people that you're surrounded by. It's very important to have a group of people that you can lean on, that you can cry, you know, have a shoulder to cry on, but at the same time, they're like, all right, you're done crying, let's go. You know? So fighting is a very vulnerable sport.
Right.
And the reason why the people in the gym become your family is because they see how vulnerable you are.
Yeah.
You know, in the gym, you get broken down, you have bad days, you know, leading up to fights. So they see that and they share those moments with you.
I love that. You really create a family, like you said, and a bond, because you don't always necessarily do that with friends or family. I think that there's a certain barrier, like you're saying, that you cross because you have to be vulnerable in order to be in the ring and in order to fight. And in order to receive the guidance from your coach or from anybody else that's trying to help you move forward. And you have to be receptive to that. But in order to do that and in order to move forward, you have to also be accepting of your vulnerabilities and your weakness, which is, at least for me, I can only speak for myself, but that's a tough one for me to just kind of, you know, let my walls down like that. So I mean, I admire that so much, because it's not just one person. You got to be vulnerable in front of anybody that's there, anybody that's watching. And then just like you said, just continue to move forward.
Right.
So I love that you are just this like badass fighter, but there's also a softer side to you, which I feel like social media has allowed me to see. And I love so much your personality. You're just such a kind-hearted person. Meeting you just on the street, I would never think you're UFC freaking champ here, because you're just such a kind soul. Talk to me about, you know, what family is to you, because I can see from your social media the bond that you have with your husband and your daughter is so special. And I know that it's an important part of your life, but I think it's such a beautiful thing in the way that you share it. It's awesome. So how important is, you know, family to you? Because mind you, as she's building her career as a UFC fighter, she decides, I'm gonna I'm gonna have a baby and a family in between, which is like let me just drop that seed. I think it's easy to forget and get lost when we do have a family, because it does become so much and life consuming. But you just are like, this is my family, but this is my gift that I need to continue to share with the world. And if you can kind of, I know I asked you like 20 questions. I'm gonna let you answer. So tell me why, you chose to continue, I guess, UFC and fighting when you created your family and built your family.
Well, I think that one of the reasons, first of all, I think one of the reasons why I fight is because I am so like warm-hearted and compassionate, that sometimes I feel like I need a balance in life. So one of the things that gives me balance is having the ability to punch people in the face. No, but it's not, seriously though, like it's just having the ability to explore my dark side. Yeah. Because I think that in life you need balance,
right?
And I think that's why so many, if you ever meet any other fighter, most of them are the nicest people in the world because they have an outlet. Now when it comes to my family, I honestly couldn't do I wouldn't be able to pursue, anything if it wasn't for the support of my husband. And my husband is, he boxed. He boxed for the Air Force and was an amazing fighter. So my husband boxed for the Air Force. He was at one point ranked number 5 in the nation, and was just this huge prospect. And having Araya was a surprise. It was a welcome surprise because I was already in love with Josh and I knew that I wanted to spend the rest of my life with him. But it was definitely something that caught both of us off guard.
Right.
And you know how they say that you have like postpartum depression when you're pregnant and this and that. I think I was more depressed when I was pregnant. Because I couldn't
fight.
I couldn't, sometimes when you get pregnant, you can continue to work, Right. I couldn't, I couldn't work. So,
you had no outlet.
I had no outlet. And I also, during that time, was watching all my teammates sign contracts, get fights, win, get these sponsorships, be in the best shape of their lives as I'm here, growing sideways, And it was really challenging for me because in my mind, I was like, I don't even know what this is doing to my body. I don't know if I'm going to be able to fight when I'm done. I don't know if I'll want to fight. I don't know if I will be able to.
Right.
Can we afford it financially? Can I pursue my dream as a fighter? Because being a fighter is kind of like being a starving artist. You don't get paid very well, especially at the beginning, So it was like, would I be selfish if I continue to fight if I have a family? And it was just all the unknowns that kind of, crept in. And so I wouldn't say it was an easy road. But because I had the support of my husband, I had the support of my coaches, and I went into the gym bawling because I thought for sure my career was over. I just turned 25, just come off of bully beatdown, and I'm thinking, this is gonna be the thing that launches my career. And here I am, pregnant, and so I pulled the coaches into the gym, into the office, and I couldn't even get the words out of my mouth, and I was and they were really concerned for me, and I was like, I'm pregnant, and they were they looked at me, they called me Peanut. Peanut, that's wonderful, that's great. And I was like, what? And they're like, you're so young and you're gonna be such a great mom. And then I was like, but what about my fight career? And they're like, what do you mean, what about your fight career? You stay in the gym, watch everybody, and when you have the baby, bring her in,
Oh, I love.
Yeah.
You getting teary over here.
Yeah. And so just how nonchalant they were about it was it just was a sigh
reinforced.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so I was like, all right, we got this, and we just hunkered down and did it. you know?
So how soon after you had her did you take like a break in between, and then, or did you just like kind of have her and dive back into it? What was kind of like your time frame that you gave yourself, I guess, like, hey, I'm going to enjoy, or I'm going to take my time, or what was your, where was your head?
I forgot who it was that told me. Maybe it was my doula, because she was like, don't be hard on your body. It took you 10 months to create
Right.
this baby. At least give yourself 10 months to get back to where you want to be. So when she put that number in my head, 10 months, I was like, okay, 10 months. You know, so when I first had Araya, I didn't care to fight. I didn't care anything. I gained a bunch of weight, and I just wanted to be with her. I wanted to be with her. I wanted to nurse her. I wanted to stare at her. I wanted to be at home with her,
Yeah.
watch her sleep, play with her. And I was fine with that. So and luckily, like I said, Josh, my husband, never like put any pressure on me to go back. Honestly, he kind of was just like, babe, like you do what you want to do, and I got you, you know. He stopped fighting because I got pregnant. Not because, but as a result, I guess. I don't know. It was in his heart to want to take care of the family, you know. And, you know, I'm forever grateful for him for doing that. But yeah, like, I think I want to say it was 3 months after I had Araya where I was like, I think I want to start going back into the gym. And you kind of like, we just fell back into a routine. So I would show up to the gym, and I'd have my purse and my gear bag and my car seat and my diaper bag. And then I'd just drop it all down and train. And if Araya needed, you know, to get fed, I would feed her, and we just made it work, you know. And so 10 months is the answer, is when I had my first fight back.
So that was when you were back in the gym, or like your first,
When was fight back?
Wow. Wow. I mean, that's like just that in itself. I'm like blown away, because it is challenging, you know, as a mother of two. It's hard, because you do just want to sit there and just love them and be present for them. And something else that I think is just such a beautiful thing is that you're a present parent by choice, and you very well could have found care or not have brought her to the gym, but she was right there by your side, watching her mom still go for, you know, what she wanted. Whew, I'm sorry, I'm gonna get teary, but still watching you go after you, and like whatever it is that you filled your heart since she was an infant. And the way that I see her, when I see her look at you like on your social media, you can see her admiration for you and what you do, not just in fighting, but as a person, as a mother, as a wife, as a friend. And you could just see, and it flows. And that is only present when you're a present parent. And I just think that that's such a spectacular thing. And probably one of the most important things for me is being able to show my kids that you can still be a present parent and loving, and have your family and still go after. Now, it's not all going to be neat and perfect, but you can do it. Right. And I love the dynamic that you set, and the way that you and your husband work together to make things work.
Yeah.
Now, you have not only just been a beast in the ring, but you've transitioned and you've pivoted so many different times. I feel like when you're dabbling here in acting and you're pursuing, you know, opening up your restaurant that's thriving, like you're not just choosing to do one thing here, which I think is one of the most amazing things, is you're not just accepting the title that people are giving you as you're this person. You're saying, whatever brings me joy, I want to pursue that. And I think that's something that's so special about you, is that you don't accept the title that's given to you. But talk me through how you make the decision of being such a successful fighter, continuing to do that, be a present parent, and then add to your plate, now you're dabbling and, you know, being in movies and acting and opening a restaurant. Like, what does that like look like in your mind?
I think the most important part about it all is to include your family, you know, because it wouldn't be possible if they weren't on board with it. Like it wouldn't settle right in my heart if they weren't on board with it. So Araya and Josh, they're both a part of my career, a part of my life. You know, Josh is in my corner. Araya knows she's a part of the team. You know, so as long as, you know, she's been alive, she's gone to every single one of my fights. And she knows. So she has to make a lot of sacrifices too. You know, like her birthday usually falls around the time that I'm getting ready to fight. So I want to say more than a couple times we had to postpone her birthday party so that we could focus on mommy's fight and get ready. And it was never a problem for her. She was like, all right, like I know what the goal is, you know. And so for her, it was okay to postpone her birthday for a couple. I mean, what kind of kid can even like fathom that? But she's a part of it, and it's cool because she gets to like experience these great moments as well. I had the opportunity to bring her into the octagon, you know, and you know, just putting her hand up and saying like, you can do whatever you want to do, babe, you know, and just seeing her look up at the lights and the star, you know, the arena, you know. And just being in the back locker room after I win, and we're walking through and people are taking pictures, and she gets to meet like Chris Pratt, who she's like, oh my God, Star-Lord, you know. So like, yeah, I think it's important, and I think that it's very important as a parent to continue to go after their dreams, because I was raised that actions speak louder than words, and I think that our children see our actions. And so and that's why I bring her to all my fights too, is because they're like, aren't you afraid for her to see if she sees you get beat up and this and that? I'm like, yeah, but like life isn't all sunshine and rainbows, you know. Like, why would I just expose her to the happy side of it? Like, because life isn't like that. You fail more than you win in life, you know. That's just how it works, you know. But it's like, how many times do you get up after that failure to try to succeed, you know? And I think it's important for her to see all of that. It's important for her to see me struggle. And so
know that it's okay.
You know, it's okay. Yeah. And now she's competing herself, and it's a little easier for her to like understand. Although I do think she has like my competitive nature, and it's like she doesn't settle, you know, because when she loses, she's pissed. But she knows, like, we try to put into perspective. Did you do better than last time? You know, all right, you did. Your points got better, so you're progressing. It might not look like it. You might not have got on the podium, but you're still progressing, and that's all that I care, you know. And it's funny that I give her this advice, and sometimes I'm pissed off at myself, and then I'm like, Michelle, stop this, you know. Like you're putting energy into the wrong thing, you know. So I tell people all the time, you just because you have children doesn't mean you give up on your dreams. It might take you a little longer, but your children will appreciate you more for going after your dreams.
100%. Like, you owe it to yourself and to them to go after your dreams, because you will just be a happier person, a more present mother, wife, because you chose to still go for what's still on your heart. I love that so much. How does that make you feel now, seeing her in the ring? Because like I was saying, she does admire you so much so that she's now choosing to kind of follow the trajectory of her mama here. So it's like,
oh, I don't know if she wants to. I don't think she wants to fight. People ask her all the time. She's like, I don't want to get punched in the face. But she's very outgoing. She's you know, she does gymnastics. She has no choice, but she has to do a martial art for self-defense. So she has no choice in that matter, you know. But by the time she gets there, she enjoys it. And so maybe later on it'll pique her interest more. But honestly, I don't want to force her into,
of course,
anything. I just want her to prosper at what she is passionate, you know, at, which in the moment is martial art. Or no, not martial arts. Gymnastics. She loves gymnastics.
I love that. I love that. I love that so much. Now, I was kind of talking to you about going into acting. What was that like for you? Because this is like night and day from what you're doing day to day here. So what does that look like for you? Because you're continuing to challenge yourself here and try something that's completely out of your comfort zone. So how's that?
It was an amazing experience. It's a really, really, really cool cast and director. So the movie is called Havoc. It's an action movie, kind of um, like the new age Die Hard, I would call it, you know. And I'm so blessed to have the opportunity to. So the director is Gareth Evans, he has such a passion for action and martial arts that he gives the action scenes more time than the speaking scenes, because he just sees how a story can be told through that lens. And so to be able to work with him in that arena was just amazing. Tom Hardy's the main actor in it, and there's just Forrest Whitaker, Luis Guzman, Justin Cornwell. There's just like A-list actors that I got to learn from, and so it excited me because I'm all about doing something that scares me, and trying to get myself to the edge and to jump, you know.
Do you feel like you were always like that, like as a child even, or do you feel like it's something that you kind of developed as you got older?
I would say that I was the type of kid that if you told me I couldn't do it, I would do it. Yeah, for sure. You know, it was like, oh, what? I can't go down that slide because I don't know how to swim? Okay. And then I would go down the slide and then drown at the bottom. But no, it was amazing. And the fight scenes were just so beautifully choreographed. And but it's kind of opposite of fighting.
Right.
Because fighting, you want to hide your technique. You want to be fast. You don't want your opponent to know what you're thinking, you're feeling. And in film fighting, you want to see all that. You have to tell the story, right? Like if the audience doesn't see you getting ready to throw the right, then they're like, "Ooh, what did you just get hit with?" So they're confused. So you have to tell the story. So it's like, all right, my right's coming towards you. Here we go. You have to have all these facial expressions. In fighting, you have to have a poker face. In acting, you have to you got to take the hits and get it. So it was like they were really opposite, and I really enjoyed being able to kind of like take that pendulum all the way to the other end and really like explore that. It was really fun.
I love that you just lean in to all of these different things. It's just awesome because I feel like, personally, I feel like that's something that I struggle with. I'm always like, dip my toe, dip my toe, dip my toe. And then I'm like, all right, I'm going. And you're just like the kid that's like, and you go. And I love that so much because for people like me, we need people like you to be the first one to take the leap off that slide. That's like, all right, now I'm going. And that's so much of the reason why I created this platform and this show is for people like you that allow people like me to see someone like you prosper in all of the things that spark joy in your life. And that's what then allows me to go after everything that I want to. Because it's like, sometimes you are the person that's afraid to take the first step. But when you see that other person and you're like, you know what? Thank you for that. I needed you to take that initial dive first so I can know it's okay.
For sure.
And it's such a beautiful thing. So in you sharing your light with everyone, you allow other people like me to go after it. And that in itself, I just thank you for being you and sharing your gift with the world, because you really allow others to pursue what's on their heart, even if it's something completely different. And I love that so much. So how are you transitioning from your fighting into now you're opening an amazing restaurant that is amazing, by the way, you need to go to if you are in Albuquerque, Taco 10. And how did that like pop into your mind? Was that something that was kind of like always in the back of your mind at some point, I'd like to open like a restaurant? Or
I think it kind of was just we had the right group of people, and it takes a lot to open up a restaurant. And so it kind of became a team effort. And for my husband and I, within these last couple of years, because like fighting is a very short-lived career, and I've had an amazing career. I've been fighting for almost 16 years now. But with that being said, like a fighter's career is anywhere between 10 and, if you're lucky, 20 years. So I know I have a couple of chapters left, and I think it would be silly of me to think that when I'm done fighting that all these other things would just fall into place. You have to plant the seeds, so that's kind of just where our head was at when we started doing these things. And we were trying to figure out ways to make our money work for us. So when you get paid in fighting, you get paid in chunks. And we were just trying to be smart with our money, and Josh is really good at that, So we kind of were just like, let's just pretend like we never had it, and invested in this and invested in that, and just try to have like multiple, like
revenues
vehicles, or however you want to call it, of income, so that we're steady. So we thought that the restaurant was a great idea, and I was able to really explore the creative side of me. I love, creating concepts and stuff like that. So we had a really fun concept with Taco 10, and the chef, who is amazing, had this idea of naming each of the tacos and making them specialty tacos. And we gave them these individual characters, and then we built a color concept around that and really brought it to life. And I enjoyed doing that. I enjoyed making the menu and helping with the social media side of it, because that's what I do with my own individual brands. So I just wanted to see if there's something that I could help and be a part of with the restaurant business. And yeah, the food speaks for itself. It has its own little style.
Yeah.
And we're really proud of what it's become, and it's just something that, like I was saying, adds to something that we can expand when I'm done fighting.
I love that. Now, talking about all of these different paths that you're choosing to take and giving yourself permission to do all of them, what do you think that your younger self would think of who you are now? If 10-year-old Michelle could see you, what do you think that she would say?
I think she would be proud. For sure, she would be proud. It's funny you ask. Sometimes you don't give yourself the credit you deserve, So, and especially like when you're in the thick of it, you don't ever look back to all your successes. I have a really bad habit of doing that, because I'm just like, go, go, go. So I think 10-year-old Michelle would be like, dang, I want to be like her when I grow up. Hopefully.
I love that. Is there any advice that you would give young Michelle if you could have the opportunity to tell her something?
I think I would. You mean as
an adult now, if you could see your younger self and tell yourself something, or give yourself some advice, would you do anything differently? Would you tell yourself something?
I don't think I would do anything differently. I would just tell myself, my younger self, to to not stress out about all the little things, and that the world is a huge place, and that it's okay to let your light shine. Like, you don't have to dim your light for other people, because the world is big enough for everybody's light to be bright, because I struggled a lot. I still do, making myself smaller so that others, feel comfortable.
Right.
And it kind of does the opposite, when you let your light shine, you kind of give other people permission to, or you give other people an idea that, hey, I can do that too, And I think just for me, it was like, sometimes I felt comfort in being in the crowd when I was younger, And so it was like, it is true. Like when you start venturing off and doing things that people don't necessarily think you can do, it becomes a lonely road, And sometimes the comfort of being amongst, a bigger group of people can persuade you to stay stay stuck.
So how do you find that balance then? So you're fighting, you're a mom, you're an entrepreneur, you're doing all of the things. How do you then leave time to have that self-care so you continue to grow, so you continue to evolve your mind and heal anything else that you were dealing with as a child? How do you have that time? Where do you find, what are you doing to keep that peace within yourself?
I think, that's like mental, like a lot of people talk nowadays about, mental illnesses and things like that. But I don't think it's as big of a nuance. I don't think it's a new problem. I just think it's now it has a name and a label, and it isn't a problem. If you talk to any anybody that's successful, any leader, any athlete, any champion, it comes from the mind first. Like they sharpen their mind first, and then everything else falls into place. And it's not something that just happens. It's something that you work on. It's like a muscle. It's something that you have to continuously work on. And so, taking your mental health seriously, I think, is very important, and it's something that you should allow yourself the opportunity to work on every day. I think a lot of parents, I see sometimes, allow themselves to get forgotten about, brushed under the rug, because they put all of their energy and effort into their children.
Right.
But in doing that, you're kind of like doing your children a disservice, because, like I said, actions speak louder than words. And it's like what they tell you when you go into air, like in the airplane, and the stewardess is on, and she's like, if we get in an accident, make sure you cover yourself with the oxygen before your children. You gotta take care of yourself first before your children, because, if something happened and you weren't able to get to your child and you go out, then you both go out, So I hope I explained that right. But
what in what ways do you, like, what are you using to help kind of keep your peace on a day-to-day basis, or keep your routine? No, you're fine.
I went on a tangent for sure. Running. I used to hate running, and now it's like a meditation for me. So I run. I listen to a lot of audiobooks. So instead of listening to music in the car during my commutes, I listen to audiobooks or podcasts. And I have mental practices. I practice. I do mental practices every morning and every night. And just when I catch myself slipping, I do that. There's all sorts of little tricks that you can do. I have power words.
I was going to ask you about that. What is, give me one of your power words, if you don't mind sharing.
Yeah, I have confidence is one of them. And that's just anytime you don't feel confident, anytime you're like kind of scared, kind of nervous, I tell myself confidence, and it just kind of, and because I've practiced it through my mental practices, just that single word encompasses it's not just a word, it's a whole feeling, it's a vibe, it's an emotion, it's a story within one word. It's kind of like a shortcut, instead of having to write a whole story, you just say confidence, and it reminds you of my 10 years of training. If I'm standing across the cage from my opponent and I'm like, oh shit, she got some big ass arms, I tell myself confidence, and then I remember, girl, you've been doing martial arts for 20 years. You've fought the best of the best, this and that. And all these things come rushing in without me actually having to think them. And it just puts me in the zone. Even when I go to do interviews, sometimes I start getting nervous. Am I going to say the right thing? Confidence, so little things like that.
I love that. Now, is there anything that you feel you haven't yet given yourself permission to do?
I think right now what I'm battling with is, because I've just reached such a high level of competition in the UFC. It's at the point that I'm at in my UFC career, it's a game of centimeters, and you can go left instead of right, and it causes you the fight. And I think because I am such like a compassionate person, I feel like I haven't really allowed myself to like completely go like beast mode in the octagon. I still hold on to some type of compassion and it costs me, you know. And so I mean, if there was anything, it would just have to give myself permission to be a monster in the octagon and not feel any type of guilt about it, because that's what I signed up to do. That's what my opponent signed up to do.
That's a beautiful thing. I mean, to share, because your job is to go after the opponent, but as a human being, you just understand both sides, what it's like to be the other person and to be on your side. That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
I'm all, don't tell nobody. I mean, but it is what it is. Like at the end of the day, some people are like, oh, game plan this, game plan that. You don't want them to. Everybody knows what's going to happen when you get into there, you know. And for me, you know, it's one of, sometimes some people consider it a weakness to be vulnerable, but I think it's a strength. And I just have to figure out how to capitalize on it. You know, I have to figure out how, like Michelle, like you put you put yourself out there super raw for the world to see. And, you know, how is this going to be beneficial to you?
Is there someone in your life that is that you see that can do that or has the ability to do that? Maybe somebody around you that is also a fighter, or maybe another friend in life that you can see allows themselves to, you know, go beast mode, but still.
I think, I mean, I consider him a friend because that's just like, he's my friend, you know, but I think somebody who who is an amazing example of that is Tony Robbins. Like, he is just the biggest, like, to me, I tell him all the time, like, you are like an angel on earth. Like, you were sent on earth to like change millions of people's lives. And like, he just has the power to command,
oh yeah,
like an army, but he is just like so vulnerable when he needs to be. And like, anytime I reach out to him, he responds. Like, he doesn't need to. He has 10,000 million other things to do, but he always responds, you know. I've seen him break down and cry about, you know, the stuff that happened to him, stuff that happened to other people, like how compassionate can he be. But I've also seen him be like really hard on people, where it's like, you need to buckle up and, you know, go. So I've seen him do both, and it's just like really amazing to have that ability to shift through all those emotions.
He's the GOAT. He really is the greatest of all time. We went to a seminar of his before, and God, it was like life changing.
Right,
so I completely understand.
You
the
don't
energy
understand.
You're talking about.
Yeah. You don't know until you know. You don't know until you know. And I mean, it is something to be said about the energy of a collective, you know, that everybody's vibing on the same wavelength. It's the same that you, like when you go to like, you know, Coachella or, you know, one of those concerts, and everybody's jumping up and down to the beat of the music and everybody's sweating together, and you just, what do you feel? You feel love, you know?
Right.
And it's just like everybody's feeling love all together at the same time. It's amplified.
I love it. I love it. Now, end on a light note. Let's share something maybe that the audience doesn't know about you.
I'm an open book, man. I'm like, my husband looks at me sometimes like, why did you just say that? I'm like, I don't know. It just came out. So I don't know. I'm like, I am pretty much open book. Like I think what I just shared with you about, you know, something that I haven't fully allowed. And not to say that there hasn't been moments.
Right.
There absolutely have been moments where I was like complete beast mode, and I guess in like I want to be able to channel that again. You know, I guess it's like it's
And
kind of
timing.
yeah, the
right?
timing of it. It's like, I mean, if anybody is an athlete or a competitor that has been in the zone, it's kind of like it's like
Flow
very
state.
euphoric, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's very hard to get there, and so getting there when it counts is like something that I feel like an addict. I really do. I feel like it's so hard, but I'm not gonna stop until I get there again, because it's just like you do feel like you're just like on a different plane. And yeah, I don't know if like I said, I'm an open book. I'm blessed. Sometimes I don't see how blessed I am because I'm so like stuck on my goals and the things that I haven't reached. But to be honest, I really am blessed. I have an amazing family, amazing career, and the opportunity to do so many cool things that I wouldn't trade it for the world.
I love that. Thank you so much
Thank
for coming here today and sharing your amazing story. I mean, if you guys weren't crying, I sure was. So thank you so much for sharing your amazing story and continuing to be a light in this world.
Thank you.
Until next time, give yourself permission to prosper. Like, subscribe, share this video, and please tell them where they can find you.
It's the Karate Hottie. Karate Hottie MMA is across all handles.
I love it.
Easy peasy.
We'll plug it down here at the bottom below so you guys can follow her amazing journey. Thank you guys.
Thank you.